Welcome to The Balancing Act, the podcast for mastering work, wealth and well-being, with me, your author and host, Sarah Brennand. Here we explore conversations, insights and expert advice through the lens of what truly drives high performance and sustainable success, aligning your money and mission, strengthening your mental and physical health, and creating a more intentional work-life balance. Each week, I'm joined by leaders, professionals and specialists who share how they navigate their own balancing act, along with practical tools and strategies that you can apply in yours. Welcome to The Balancing Act. I'm Sarah Brennand, and today's episode is another of our extended interviews recorded during the creation of my book, Balancing Act, Mastering Work, Wealth and Wellbeing. These conversations shaped chapters across the book, and I'm sharing them here because they offer a depth and honesty that you can really only capture in real time. Today's guest is Anne-Sophie Amiot, a leader whose career brings together technical expertise, strategic thinking and a deep curiosity for people. Anne-Sophie is the Vice President of Sales and Strategy at Wood plc, where she leads major energy and consultancy projects. Anne-Sophie began her path in chemistry and engineering before stepping into client-facing and strategic leadership roles, becoming known for her ability to blend analytical thinking with human insight. One of the reasons I wanted to include Anne-Sophie in the book is because her story sits right at the intersection of science and relationships. Two worlds that, on the surface, seem very different, yet share a common thread: curiosity. In conversation, she talks about the desire to learn, to discover and to reassess, whether she's working on complex technical projects or managing human dynamics across multicultural teams. Anne-Sophie begins by sharing a bit about herself before we then explore the different areas that contribute towards her successful career and life. I do hope you enjoy our conversation. So if you just want to begin telling us a little bit about who you are now, so we get an understanding about you.
So I'm Anne-Sophie. I'm responsible for sales and strategy at Wood, which is a global engineering consulting company in the energy and materials sector. So as part of my function, I support both our business internally on the sales and strategy around making sure we are set up for success and we are evaluating the markets and our clients and our competitors correctly in the markets we want to address. I also have in my job a part facing clients and supporting client accounts effectively, where I also support to help structure our approach to our clients to hopefully provide more growth to the company at the end of the day. Personally, where I'm at, I'm a happy mother of 3 children. I'm married. I live in London in the UK. After it's been 10 years we're in the UK now. After first, we're French, all of us are French, and we moved to the UK 10 years ago and stayed because we're really happy here. We moved to my husband's job and I managed to find a company I was happy with and I thrive in. And so we stayed, and our kids are fully bicultural, which we're really proud of. Yeah, respond to your question.
Yes, thank you very much. So just give us a bit of an understanding of your career path. So where did it start and when did you, is what you're doing now something that you always knew you'd do? Is this sector a sector you would always going to want to work in? Or what did young Anne-Sophie want to do?
Yeah, I think where I'm now makes a lot of sense, but I didn't know I would arrive here. When I look back at it, I always knew I wanted to work in a technical area. My dad was an engineer. My mom was more around business, but I knew I was a hands-on person very early on when growing up. So I did engineering studies because where I grew up, it was a royal career path, a royal studies path to success. So I did the best I could, entered a really good university, and then got a job in the oil and gas industry, a bit by fate, I don't know. It just happened that it was an interesting career opportunity in a sector I didn't know. I have a background in engineering and chemistry, so I was probably more destined to go into a chemicals company, but I was missing that aspect around seeing the product of my own hands. In the current company I'm at, or in the current sector I'm at, it's we see projects coming off the ground, and I love that aspect around it. So I started in an engineering-related company, and effectively I've done all my career around the energy industry, in my service to the industry. And I moved very early on to client-facing role, and I realized I was really good at it, being able to convince clients, being able to also understand their drivers and adapt what we're proposing to what they want. It's actually a thread that's followed me through my career. So when I arrived at Wood, when we were in the UK, I started in a consultancy job, technical consultancy job. And I embraced very quickly also the client-facing side. I also had managerial responsibilities early on, as I was also recognized as being a good team leader, quite empathetic, and combining, I suppose, technical and human skills that were a good fit for the role. And so I ended up being given a role around strategy 2.5 years ago now, probably. Where it was in an executive leadership team, really very high up, a big jump in my career, and I joined a fantastic team which was diverse, culturally embracing diversity of opinion, and I felt that even though I was different to anyone in the team, I could bring my own value, and I was listened to. And I also was able then to, have this client-facing part of my life. What we do best. So that's how I arrived where I am today.
And has there been any standout moment or person that you feel has had the biggest impact on that direction, or on any of the changes that that you've made in order to get here?
Yes, I feel like my different changes in my career, different job changes, I have been mostly driven by others rather than myself. I think we discussed that previously around being listening to what others see in me before I was able to see it for myself. So when I moved in my very first promotion after 3 years in my professional life, being told you're good at this, why don't you look at that as the next career step? You would be good. And then so every time being able to listen and to trust, because it's a bit of a leap of faith sometimes, right? It's around, am I ready? Can I do it? If they think I can do it, then probably I should do it.
Yeah.
And so most recently, so before taking this big role change 2.5 years ago, I was at a stage of my career where I knew I needed to change. There was no obvious choice for me in the company because I had a bit of an original career path compared with most of the engineers in the company. So I asked a number of internal allies around where they would see me, and it came consistently back to, you're good at client-facing things, so you should consider this route. So then it was a bit of having also the right internal sponsor, who have always played a big role as well in my career. And it was the right time and the right moment, being asked the job when I really wanted to change, and I was, I had, it was that or probably, doing something wrong. And again, trusting that I could do something that I felt was probably beyond my reach, or I wouldn't have looked at personally in terms of, because it was a big promotion. But again, being asked to do that and taking the step, doing it and realizing I could, and I was actually good at my job too there.
So on that one, there obviously isn't a gap because you did take the job and you were very successful in the role. But to some people, you might hear, the bit where you go, I don't know if I can do it, but somebody says I can. There's the potential, that fear of failure or fear of success, that bit of going, oh, I'm not sure. But you obviously have a really relaxed way of wanting to get feedback from other people about how you're doing and where they see you, and recognizing that you can learn a lot from that. Do you have any element of, or have you had a fear of failure where you've kind of gone, oh, I'm just not sure if I do that and I don't succeed, what if? Because actually it sounds like you've done things, you've had feedback, and then you've gone on and the next thing's been successful. So I'm just interested really around your perception of, or
yeah, we all have this fear, don't we? What if it doesn't work? But the thing is, I feel it works. It's a bit of a virtuous circle, right? You give yourself the chance for it to work. So you put the best of yourself in it.
yes.
But how do you deal with the fear a bit beforehand? I don't know. I think I like the challenge.
Yeah.
So if there was no fear, it wouldn't be fun.
Yes.
It would. So that's part also of the decision. Is like, I think I can do it. Let's try and see.
Yes.
But I understand people do deal differently with fear, right?
So how do you minimize the risk, or how if it, or maximize potential for success?
So I guess for me, the most important part would be the first days or weeks in the job, and how I deal with that. I don't think necessarily it was for everyone, but for me, it's really putting yourself in a humble position of arriving in a role, in a humble position, knowing you don't know everything there is to know, seeing where you see areas for improvement and where there's these fits with your own strengths and skills, and seeing where you can deploy your energy at best to bring improvement and building success on the small things first, building also relationships with the teams as well, right? I did find that extremely important, not arriving as a I know it all person, and recognizing each team member has something different to bring, learning from them. So that's how I dealt with it.
Something else I wanted to explore is you obviously have a background, you've talked about like chemistry, engineering, energy, which all the words in my head are going, specific, data-driven, technical. And then you talk about all the people side of everything as well, which is a really nice, balanced approach. So I'm just intrigued, you're successfully managing both elements, both sides, in terms of that very technical data specific, and then all of the fluidity around relations of all kinds in all senses, with clients internally. So just tell me a bit about that, and where those where the awareness of your self-awareness to want to learn from others and to get their feedback, but also awareness of other people and ability to connect and manage them so well. It's a big question, mate.
I'm not sure I've even asked myself this question, or I've even found a real answer. But maybe the common point I see between science in general and human relationship is the desire to learn and to discover, right? So this is the common ground, I would say. Being curious. Science, you can get very far, but it gets, as you say, very technical and very specialized very fast. Human relationships are something so vast. You'll never end up learning. So you can also look at human relationship as, there's no rules you can make really about human relationships. So it's a constant process about reassessing. I like technical things, but I don't think that's where I find my energy from and my passion from. Being good at something doesn't necessarily mean it's what's drives you, right? So it was something that enabled me to find a career path, and now I find roles in that sector that enable me to actually bring probably the best of myself to the job and to the company.
So in terms of the different people that you manage, or clients as well, or customers, give us some examples of how different people operate in different ways, because I'm sure from a cultural perspective, you must work with an array of different people from different backgrounds.
Yes, and that's something that I realized I was also good at over the course of I always had a multicultural education, not necessarily by design, but it happened. So starting very young at secondary school, I was in international school. So living day to day with probably a dozen of different nationalities at school. And so it always I think it provided me early on with an open-mindedness and a realization that there was not a single way to do things or a single view of life or a single culture that was prevailing.
Yeah.
So then through my career, because I had this, which was tingling in the back of my mind always around, that's actually really rich as an experience. I always try to keep that multicultural element, both in my studies and in my professional life. And you realize then that when you arrive with that awareness in a job environment where culturally some of our colleagues are less aware, you actually can make a real difference. And so it's about, I think, back to listening, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. You will never be able to fully understand where they're coming from because you don't know all their personal lives or where they're coming from. But yeah, just asking yourself, yeah, that's they might have good reasons to behave the way they do. And so that's, I think, yeah, again, back to being humble, I think, around them. Yeah, surely there's something that explains where they are, what they say, or something. And in a multicultural team or with clients, yeah, things go well if I find myself being able to be myself, but also to embrace who they are and having this, relationship as I'm different, but I'm complementary kind of thing.
And having a multicultural team, are there any cultural norms that do create or that create a challenge in terms of how to manage different people in different places with different potential norms or things that they would expect, expectations?
Yes, they are, and obviously gender is one of the things that come up right in the different culture, different ways. This is why I always found important to be personally credible in what I bring to a company, independently from my gender, so that I had the legitimacy to be able to have an opinion and to be listened to. In terms of, you can see my issues, not issues, but you can see challenges with culture in the Middle East and culture in Asia as well. I remember when I was very young in my career going on site in India and being on a team with a man and myself and talking to the client, and the client would listen to the man, even the man needing to repeat what I just said because the client wouldn't acknowledge what I just said. Okay. It happens, it helps you grow, it helps to understand the culture. You can also decide to take it wrong and go on a fight against these behaviors. But I choose to realize it's how they are, and there's not much I can change about this one, and this is not going to be a relationship I will build. And I'll decide to focus my energy somewhere else.
Yes. And from a leader or management of others' perspective, are there any things that you've brought in or particularly put in place to make sure that just so that you can effectively manage a team that is multicultural or that's kind of spread regionally as well?
I think it's about giving space to people, and acknowledging that we have different ways to contribute to a team. I learned this from exceptional leaders that I reported to as well, right? So I was lucky enough to have great people above me that showed me how things can be done in a very sensible way, and that broke the best out of a team. And this really was it, not force people to behave the way they don't. I think we discussed this also when we had our workshop together 18 months ago or so, around not everyone will want to have the same speaking time around the table, and not everyone will see effectively being a contributor with the same success factors around. So they can bring their contributions in different ways effectively to the table, and it's about understanding that and finding what they can bring and seeing what they think is important for them, and being able to pull that out.
So if we move on to the paradigm, so money mission paradigm, can you share some insight into how you've gone about it in a positive way, or anything that you've gone, actually, if I would do this differently, or this is how I would say to somebody else, I maybe didn't get this bit right, this is what I'd recommend you do, or some some examples of things people could do to build a career in a life that is something that means you're doing something in a role that you're passionate about. It's enabling you to feel purpose, but there's also creating a career or life that's financially sustainable and enables you to do the things that you want to do.
Yes. So for me, to put things in perspective, so I married very early on in my professional life, I think 1 year in, and we had children rather early on as well. So having a financial responsibility was always there for me. Also my education family-wise is also very much around saving for the future and having a reasonable lifestyle and making sure you prepare for your children's future. So with this in the back of my mind, and then so starting a career as a wife and as a mother, you don't have so many different choices. So you have to make money enough, right, to sustain the household. But I was fortunate enough that my husband also has a very successful career. And so all the choices we've made career-wise have been discussed between the two of us. He had opportunities to move abroad a number of times that we, as a family, chose not to take early on because of our children and some health issues. And when it was the right time, we moved to London because for him, it was a good opportunity. For me, it wasn't particularly a good time for my career because I was just being promoted, but I always wanted to go abroad. I thought it was a great time for our family as I was expecting our third child. And I was, again, very confident that I'm sure I would in time find something that works with us, for me, sorry. And we always told ourselves, if it doesn't work, we're only going to London, only a couple of 100 miles away. We could go back to France to find, let's say, the environment we know and where we know we could find something, hopefully. So that was the kind of safety net we had. If it doesn't work in London, for me or for us as a family, well, it would have been a nice experience and we would be able to go back. And so when I found a job here, it was interesting financially because the relationship to, the costs here are different from the costs in France, right? Mm-hmm. France, you are helped a lot financially when you have a family. A lot of funding around childcare, and also just subsidies as being a mother of a multiple children family. And so here it's completely different. And then when I took my first job here, I remember financially it didn't really make sense. It was just barely positive between my nanny full-time and between the transport, because the job I found was not close to home. Yeah. But it was, however, a deliberate choice to take this particular job because it felt right. So I'm very intuitive about my career choices. And I had this wonderful interview with two people I felt in love with almost, that I thought I could definitely see myself working with them. It has the technical challenge I do like. I can see how it fits with my skill sets and my background as well, even though it's different. And it was like, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, I'll try something else. Yeah. And I guess that's the same sort of thinking process that I've been on. No pressure about it working or not. And the more you think about it, the less pressure you put on yourself, the more successful you are often. Yeah.
Less pressure. Oh yeah. In long term, when people kind of go, what do you want in the future? Where is that for you? So how far in the future do you plan? Like, do you have a really clear sense of purpose and mission, the things that you want to achieve, or is that quite fluid as well?
So I don't have, in terms of mission, yes, not necessarily in terms of where I'll be job-wise or company-wise. I know now, over the last couple of years, I've done through courses, through internal mentoring or informal coaching, I have learned a lot about myself and coming to realize who I am, what is my uniqueness, my unique selling skills, and being therefore at peace and serene with who I am and believing in myself and what I can bring. And therefore, so I do see myself as being able to capitalize on these going forward. And this is probably what's going to be driving me in how can I make the most of what I know about myself to bring value to a company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And and this involves, obviously relationship with others, being clients, being teams, part of a team leader. At the end of the day, where you are versus the team doesn't necessarily matter. It's how you interact with the team.
Yeah, no, it's important. So if we go on to the mental, physical health, mental being kind of emotional, social, cognitive load, and then physical health and movement. How do you feel that you appropriately kind of balance and load each? And if you don't, what are the bits that you would change? And if you do, what are the things that you're doing well?
It's interesting as well because I did see a lot of also yo-yo in my mental and physical health over the years. I've always thought keeping a physical health, however, you needed a minimum threshold to be able to be happy in general or thrive as an individual, right? So for some reason, during COVID, for example, we had this intercompany running challenge, which I took, and it enabled me to realize, you can actually combine fun, interactions with others, and physical health. I don't have necessarily a routine or a program manager for that. It's really about how I feel. I do like having an active life. So even though I don't necessarily do particular physical activities like sports, I like walking a lot to do things. I like hiking during the holidays. I like having an active life, right? So that would be my lower threshold of physical activities. And then the higher threshold, you'd add the running. At the moment, I'm doing twice a week run, long run, okay. And so let's see how it goes. But it depends also on the life stages, right? If you travel more, you probably exercise less. And then it's the balance with the mental health, as you said earlier. So what about mental health? I do see that I had I had a couple of downs, obviously, with the different reorganizations in our companies and with uncertainty about my own future and in terms of roles. And how I dealt with that was, again, trying to go back to my essentials, which are interactions with others. So going back to talking to my internal allies, my sponsors, and exchanging, getting my load out. I don't know if that translates well, but effectively telling how I felt, hearing back from them, not necessarily always advice, because sometimes there's no advice, but it's just like acknowledgement. It was normal to feel that way. And being able to externalize it and get it out was already most of the work done, because you acknowledge how you feel, and it's okay to feel bad when you feel bad, and then it's the first step to get over it. So it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any, do you have any signs when or things that mean you then recognize, actually I do need to rest more, or I do need to, what signs that you can feel yourself getting more anxious or more stressed or more?
Yes, definitely.
What kind of things might they be?
So you'd have the obvious at home. You see your level of patience with the children going very much down, shouting more often for not necessarily a good reason, these sort of things. That's like reflecting just after having done it, saying, what did trigger it? What's happening? It was not different from a couple of days ago from their side. So what's it made different? So that would be definitely a trigger. That's something I experienced as well. I had a break of 2 years maternity leave in my career. And I realized patience was a lot around relationship to time management. And when you have the time, you have actually a complete different relationship with everyone around you. So that helped me also still today to realize, actually, I'm just angry because I'm stressed out because of time, for example. At work, what's my trigger? Often also people tell me I don't shine the same way. I'm generally full of energy and very bright. And when I'm more just silent, generally speaking, less talkative, less smiley. People notice it immediately, and I actually realize it also about myself. And that's my signal, my alarm bell that says, Anne-Sophie, something's not right. You have probably to do something about it, right?
Yeah. And what might you do? So when you feel like that, what are your go-tos to help? Other than obviously you mentioned speak to people, are there any other just, however small bits you go, if I do this, I know I'll feel a bit better?
Well, what do I do? There are complementary skills that are complementary things that are not necessarily logical going with each other, but taking the time for myself and going early to bed and having a good night's sleep would be one of the things. But in reverse, spending time with friends, having a night out, an evening out, right? And just, doing something else, changing your mind, changing your thoughts. And again, what makes you happy. So trying to go back to what makes you happy in a different environment. So if work's not going right, then try to find family-wise or friends-wise something that would make you happy with the same triggers, or vice versa. And when it's really difficult, it's when both don't go well at the same time, and that's difficult. But I always found colleagues/friends to exchange with, and if anything, that would be my way of dealing with it, is like just letting it out. Don't shy away from saying I happen to I cry often when I'm very I do cry when I'm feeling very sensitive around the situation, and every time I'm passionate about something, and I can't really control it, and I learn to deal with it and to accept it. But that's also another way to, if something's becoming too heavy for me, it would come also out that way. Colleagues will also help me through that. Thoughts, so trying to find ways, explore avenues, exchange ideas.
Okay. Thank you. Just talk me through, because so I'm guessing that your life your kind of day to day can be incredibly varied in terms of what you're doing, where you're doing it, what time you need to be somewhere, travel and everything else. So if you could design your best day, what would that look like in terms of what time you get up, the type of work or activity or whatever that you'd want to do first? What would that ideal day look like?
Oh, I respond something you might not like, which is my ideal day is different from yesterday.
Okay,
As far as but I suppose why I would join you is there have to be a number of elements. There has to be some physical activity, whether it's sport. It doesn't matter. It's generally not sport on a normal week, right? But it's walking to work, climbing stairs up and down for laundry at home. I don't know, even just walking to the bakery to get the bread. But that's something. Being outside also, generally I like that aspect. I like having a good time at the end of my day with my family to reconnect when I come back from work. There's this moment where I come home, I cook dinner, we have dinner as a family. And that's the bonding time, and that's the time where we're all together and we still have this family cell that is there, and we nurture and we keep and we want to proactively maintain and develop and nurture. And then I know I have one of my most active working time if I wish to do so, which is after the kids are at bed, are sleeping. I go back to my laptop, and I know it would be probably one of the most effective working times because there's no external distractions. I work best under pressure, so if I have started it for the next day, I'll work very efficiently during that period. And in the middle, a good day would involve interacting with clients, being able to interact in a way that's productive, meaning being able to demonstrate the quality of our company, to be able to accelerate towards the next step of the opportunity or the project, or to bring people together and just help shape a project. Shaping an opportunity is something I love doing.
Let's talk about rest, because I'm sure you're really busy at work, and also you've got 3 children. Rest has got loads of scientific advantages for brain health and performance. But obviously we can all rest in very different ways. So if you want downtime, what's your go-to thing to do? Like, do you take moments throughout the day? Is it more about sleep at night? How do you close off and get some rest time?
So during the day, I guess I would always try and find, when I'm in the office, time to have a pause for a break for lunch, right? So it's probably culturally something also quite important, being French.
Yeah.
But yes, taking the time to sit outside of my desk and have lunch, ideally with colleagues, so that we share the moment. And that's the moment you disconnect your brain from what your focus area was before, and then you can restart from fresh afterwards. When I'm home working, I find it more difficult to do, but equally, I find the day, the dynamics are very different. So I haven't yet. I probably would go, if I'm home, just walk around the home and look at other things to do in the home to get my brain off in terms of activity mode. During the weekend, or in the evenings, what I love is going or taking a good book and laying and reading. That would be a good thing. But my best hobby and resting, my thing is I love baking, so I would go and do that. That's a way for me to really going back to manual activity with the brain on the off mode.
Yes. Tell me more about baking then. Is that something you've always done?
Yeah.
Yes. Now.
I grew up when the family were cooking and baking was always important, and I think it's about the culture. You learn by seeing being done, and it's the same at home now. My kids, I'm impressed they can do cakes on their own already, so it's amazing. What I love about baking is one of the less or more selfless hobbies, because you bake to be able to bring joy to the others rather than only to yourself, right? So it's about spreading joy, really, which is a bit naive and
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, I really like it. Thank you. Work-life balance or integration, or what does work-life balance mean to you when I say, do you have it?
A couple of elements. So first, it depends on the life stage. Obviously, when you start working as a young graduate, it was not a problem for me to stay until 7 at work. I love doing that.
Yeah.
I felt fulfilled because I gave my best to my work. What today work-life balance looks like is being able to do what I want to do in the time I want it done, but the when exactly and the where I do it from are very variable. And this is where I've always been lucky enough to have managers, direct line managers, who were fully understanding of this. And as long as I did meet the expectation, it didn't really matter how. But that's for me what's the best in work-life balance. It looks like is finding your own equilibrium about meeting your targets or even exceeding them, but at your own time, as long as the final timeline or deadline is clear.
And from if we just go on to the travel perspective, do you have any kind of set routines so that when you travel, you arrive and are switched on in whatever state you want to be for when you have that important client meeting or presentation, or whatever that type of work is that you're doing, from kind of the point at which you start thinking about it, packing, the process of going, nutrition, anything like that? Is it all the same? Does it change?
The commonalities, I think I'm a checklist person, so I would we have all different approaches to stress and travel. So first, it's important to understand I love travel, not for the sake of going into an airplane, but for what it brings in terms of building relationships and meeting others and interacting face to face with others. So that's what I enjoy a lot. Whether or not it's highly compatible with a mother role is different, but it happens to be the case. Yes. So I generally value travel a lot. So I would then prepare my best. I have my checklists, which now is more mental than paper, but having done it so much time. And so if I know I have ticked all the boxes, I can go and travel in a serene mode because I know I'm prepared.
Yeah.
And that checklist does include all the stuff logistic-wise, but also, as you say, preparedness for the meeting. So do I know what I'm supposed to talk about? Is my presentation ready? Do I know who I'm going to meet, where I'm going to be? Anything and everything, really. And so depending on, from time to time, you might not be in the same state of readiness, but it's about, again, knowing where you are, where compared to where you want to be. And for long hauls, I felt okay in the later part of my career to finish a presentation on the flight. While when you were at the start of your career, you wanted to be everything nailed down before you even consider traveling. So, and that comes with experience, because you know you're capable of dealing with the situation with, you know more, and you don't necessarily need to be completely prepared in advance. In terms of routines and everything, I generally like, taking time during a flight, a bit of focus time, depending on the duration of the flight, obviously. A bit of focus time and a bit of relaxed time is something I consider important. I wouldn't work throughout the whole flight, for example, because it's something that would be counter-effective for me.
Yeah.
In terms of then, I generally use the transit time to also switch off, because I generally sick anyway in cars and taxis, so I can't work in taxis. So I will use that time to do me stuff, whether it's checking on my phone, calling family, or having conversations, or just resting, really. So that's the way I would deal with it. Often I would also try and arrive, if I can, a day before, if the meeting's in the morning, so that I'm not rushed in, and I'm in the best place. And for if in the case where you need to land and go directly to a meeting, and it happens, unfortunately, it's hopefully all the steps before do help with that, in arriving in the right frame.
How well do you respond to change?
Too well. I do value change. I like change. I prefer when things change than when things are too. It depends which change, I suppose, right? But I'm good at dealing with flexible situations and adapting, and I enjoy what it brings in terms of diversity as well. Sometimes too much, meaning that it's probably, I know it's less effective having to switch from just change plans in the middle, but I think you develop skills to be able to deal with that, and that has its own value, really.
Do you think that's something you've always been able to do and respond to well, or because you just mentioned skills there, or are there skills that you think you've developed over time that have shaped that?
I definitely think becoming a mother has helped with that, right? Because the multitasking and responding to different, what's the word? Triggers, or different asks at the same time. So prioritizing the needs and explaining also sometimes why change is needed. So that's the narrative around managing change and why change needs to happen, or how we deal with change. This, I think, being a mother has helped me a lot in that regard. Yes, really.
Yeah. Just something I want to pick up on, so it was something that came with something you said earlier on. Do you want to talk about communication? Because I think you're very aware of different people's styles, kind of management styles and things, but also I recognise that you must manage some people in person, some people at a distance. Yeah. So what's your awareness of different communication styles, and how do you manage that so that you can manage different people successfully across a completely different range of styles and their preferred ways?
That's interesting. So, because I probably have different styles, whether they are my team that report to me, or whether I'm part of the team as well.
Okay, yeah.
In general, if I can drive the culture, I would follow the culture driven by the team manager, so to speak. So I would try and embrace what's the culture in the team I'm at. And if I'm the one driving the culture, what I would do generally is, I think I would drive the way I'm probably personally dealing with human relationships, and believing that being the most tender and transparent and clear about your objectives or your reasons, and just generally, valuing the openness, I would say, is something I generally try and impress in my teams. And so that if you're open with me, I'll be open with you. And so it goes on a number of ways, because it goes on the human side, being able to deal with personal constraints. You have a family, I have a family, no problem. We can both work around that. It goes also with the strategy aspect around, if I'm open with you, I can share with you what's the vision, what's the purpose of the team, where we want to go. And if you share that with me as my manager, I also understand where we're going and I can buy into it. And I can give myself fully to it and put all my energy into it, because I do understand where we're going and why.
Yeah.
So, and when I'm missing that, this is where I struggle personally. So I tend to replicate that with my own team.
Yeah. If from a very practical way, how do you prefer to do that? So is that something written? Do you prefer to have a conversation? Do you like to make sure everything's in email? Do you like the detail or more of a bigger picture?
It depends. So again, it depends if it's group communication or individual to individual communication. Okay. Individual to individual, it would very much depend also again on the person in front of me. If I can see someone in front of me deals well with just, I would prefer verbal communication if I can.
Yeah.
But we recognize the need for having things written sometimes. But if the person in front of me shows me, I can tell them something and they'll do it anyway, and I don't need to have written down. I won't necessarily go through the hassle. Yeah. We will do it if it's needed anyway, because we all need to have processes and things written down. But so if that works without it day to day, then I wouldn't. As a group, I would prefer writing things down, I think, yes, so that I like summaries of actions and discussions, key points and actions, so that everyone can see what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to contribute, I guess, to the team success.
So I just want to talk about resilience. Are there things that you that you do or that you've done in the past that you felt that's helped to create a level of resilience? Because I think we've touched on this quite a bit actually as we've gone through, just in terms of how adaptable you are to change, the kind of low threshold for fear of failure, and examples of how you've done something and that's given you the confidence to go on and do something again. So just, is there any other bits to add in terms of what makes you more resilient?
So resilience can also, it depends resilience to what, I suppose. Because I'm super resilient to high work pressure. I'm thrive under pressure. This is where I'm most productive. Speaking for myself, I do understand we're not always right? And I struggle, on the contrary, with being low, not having enough workload, not having enough to do. And this is a typical thing, is you have a single task to do, but you would procrastinate and leave it to the last minute, so that you have this pressure of time billing, right? So resilience so how do I deal with then these periods of not being fully utilized and not feeling like I'm bringing the best I could, or I'm not utilized to the most of what I could bring? And so I suppose this also took time for me to learn to deal with. But over time you realize this is the best period to, I keep procrastinating because I know these things I don't like doing, I'll do them when I have to and I'll be forced to. So I have accepted that as well.
What kind of things might they be?
There are these minutes of meetings, or these reports, or these trainings that you need to do for corporate that are not due until next week or month. That's other things that, or even, let's leave it there. But so dealing with too low demand, it's around indeed being able to, it's actually the best moment to try and shine and bring your own creativity if you have, if you want to. And it's easier to said than done. And I realized that people, when they told it to me, I kind of laughed at them, and I don't have anything to bring. And so it has also to fit with something you already have been mulling over, and it's the right moment to do it. I also use these times to build connections and network internally or externally, and that's something that's always of value anyway in my role. Yes, and what else? Yeah, that's it.
Yes, So in terms of, just on that one, and then we'll move on to the last bit, you're very emotionally and personally aware and open and have conversations with your team. Are there any kind of management techniques or informal or informal things that you do to make sure you're also aware of kind of where your team are at, kind of from a resilience level or a cognitive load level?
There are techniques. I'm not sure I apply them very all the time, but the key things is to look at change from the norm in terms of behavior, right? So, and that would be, I think, the first thing to check is mental health wise, are they as you expect them to be? Do they behave differently? Do they say or not say things that you would expect them to say?
Yeah.
And so it requires active listening and realizing it's not always easy to be an active listener when you have your own loads of pressure and time pressure, and again things calling you in the background, and you have to do this task, and it requires a conscious effort to be an active listener. And so being in the conversation is something that needs always to be.
Yeah.
And I realized there are probably moments in my career where I didn't put enough effort in there, but trying to go back there.
So finally, the first one is, if you could go back and give your younger self 3 pieces of advice, what would they be? And then the second one is 3 to 5 tips for other people who are earlier in their career. So whichever one you want to do first. Some of them might be the same.
Different. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they might be the same.
I think we touched upon that before we started, right? But it's important to recognize that what success means for you is very personal to you. And you have to learn to know yourself and to understand what makes you happy in general. And it might not be the same as the next door neighbor. Financial wealth is only one sort of wealth. I do value my life being rich of a family, a home, and a career. And a career is obviously the revenue, but it's also being able to bring something to the world. Generally, my company, my colleagues, my clients is having a meaning. And what is it they say right now? To matter, right?
Yeah.
So understand that. So try to learn to if you learn that, the earliest you learn, you'll avoid, I guess, a lot of trouble around trying different routes. I find, although trying different routes extremely enriching, and so what else? What would I tell myself? Yeah, maybe try more. Even probably, I would say if I had to. I think I tried most of the time I had an opportunity, but we discussed that I was more following leads rather than proactively searching. So maybe, yes, I would tell myself, don't hesitate to be more ambitious with your search, believe in yourself. Yeah, these sort of things I think. And in terms of, don't have regrets also, probably, because you are who you are because of what you've lived for. So yeah, I think you would be a different person if you had something else. So just value who you are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to speak with Anne-Sophie, and I hope that those of you listening found real value in her wonderful and honest insights into building a meaningful life and career. Anne-Sophie's reflections on curiosity, culture, leadership and balance offer so much for all of us to take forward. If you'd like to explore these themes in more depth, you can find extended insight, expert perspectives and supporting resources at the Balancing Act website, www.balancing-act.co.uk, and of course in the Balancing Act book for mastering your own work, wealth and wellbeing. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.